topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Happy Friday afternoon. Thank God it's Friday. This is the Ask the Experts radio show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We do about 30 shows a month, and there's certain shows that I just look so forward to doing the show, and it's amazing that by your numbers, the listeners, you must like it also. You know what? If you've got a tax problem, maybe you have a family member who has a tax problem. You don't want to go up against the IRS. Not by yourself, you don't. You want to have a firm that's going to represent you and get you the best possible deal. Let me introduce you to my friend, attorney Lance Drury. Good afternoon, attorney.
Good afternoon, Steve. It's great to be here.
You know what? I got to tell you, Lance, I remember our first show. You know what? You stepped right in. A lot of people are nervous the first show. You stepped right in. You've seen the numbers on YouTube. You know the audience that you have, or most of them, and you're just so confident in what you do and how your firm is helping so many people.
Oh my God, Steve. We started, my legal assistant is retiring. She's already retired. We're having a retirement dinner Monday night. And one of the things that I allude to in the address that I'm going to give for is when she started 15 years ago, we had about 60 clients. We now have about 1,000 clients at any one time, and it's only going to get bigger. And one of the things you talked about prior to the show when we were discussing was, there's people that go out there, they hire one of these big firms, they don't get any satisfaction, they pay all this money, their calls are never returned, nobody does anything because they talk to a salesperson up front. When you call my firm, you either talk to me or you talk to another attorney. There's no salesperson, but the problem is there is a lot of resistance even when they come to me because they've had a bad experience or two with other people who didn't do anything for them. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And you're right. Those are the people who it's hardest to convince because they've been burned, and I don't blame them. But, I tell people, just go on to Google reviews. We're a 4.7 out of 5 in St. Louis. We're a 4.95 out of 5 in Nashville, Tennessee. And so, we're the real deal. Go on my website, see the speeches I've given, the awards I've won, the books I co-authored. I have great people. No lawyer creates a great law firm alone. I have great people, and that's why this firm, not because of me, but because of the people that work in this firm. Customer service is key to us. That's why you need to give us a call.
Lance, I got to tell you, we get letters. It's so funny you said that, from people who said, I watched your show, but I hired this big firm and I thought they were going to take care of it. And it's amazing. Once they got my check, it was like pulling teeth to reach them. And when you have the IRS after you, you want to be at least kept up. You're not saying every day or even 2 or 3 days, but at least if you pay someone, you want to at least know that they're working out there for you. And there's people, you're right, people who've been burned. And I'm just asking people to give this one more shot, because the worst thing, Lance, is having the IRS after you.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, you're going up against probably the most terrifying agency in the federal arsenal. And if you try to do this on your own, they're just going to eat you up and spit you out. You cannot do this on your own. And one of the reasons is, the IRS is so far behind. They don't have enough people. Half of them don't know what they're talking about, but a layperson is not going to know that. If you call the IRS up on your own and they tell you something, you're not going to know if it's true or not. But we know. We spend $50 to $100 or more every year just keeping up on this. When I was just a small town lawyer, and I know you can't tell this, Steve, but I've been around for a while. I did 15 hours of continuing legal education a year. Now, every lawyer in my employ and myself, we spend a minimum of 50 to 100 hours or more a year just keeping up on this. They're a bureaucracy. It's the government. Things are constantly changing. You got to have that commitment. I'm 72, Steve, but I'm going to my St. Louis office tomorrow. That's an hour away. I'm going to talk to a couple people, pick up some time-sensitive documents that my clients have dropped off, because that's what you have to do if you want to take care of people. You got to go the extra mile. I had a legal assistant in here this morning at 6 a.m. I had another one. I thought, I'm going to get to the office at 5:45 Tuesday. She was here at 5:30 in the morning. That's the kind of people that I have working for me. That's what makes this firm great.
I knew that about your firm, Lance, working with several of your assistants, that they are so on the ball. And I'm going, you know what? If the assistants are like this, the firm has got to be like this. And I believe her name is Donna. I really hate to see her go, because she was like always right on the ball.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, she did everything. If something needed to be done, she stayed late. If a client had a problem, she took care of it. If the load was sort of overwhelming, she never complained. She did her job. She was my right-hand person. I confided in her with big issues all the time. We didn't always agree, but once the direction was made, she was extremely loyal, and she would do whatever to carry out whatever direction we were going to go in. We're really going to miss her around here. She's a rare commodity. You don't find people like that. But fortunately, I have other great legal assistants. I don't know what it is. They come, they don't quit until they retire. And, I'm very fortunate. I mean, you expect attorneys to be that dedicated,
Right?
But not your legal assistants. And I really have a great group of legal assistants in this firm.
Well, Lance, what makes your show, for me, so easy to do, all the people who are sending their questions in, I don't even have to think of any questions off the top of my head. So let's get started. I want to start off with Lori in Plano, Texas. What percent of your clients learn to find out the IRS figures are wrong on what they say they owe?
Well, it's kind of hard to say what percentage, but it's not minuscule. I can tell you that. It might happen 10, 15, 20% of the time. And they make mistakes all the time. So it's not just the numbers, it's other things that are going on. They'll send a notice. I'll give you an example. We had a guy the other day, and the clock runs out on collections in October. So we told him our game plan is we're going to file an equivalency hearing because he got a final notice of intent to levy rather than a collection due process hearing, because the collection due process hearing stops the clock. So you got to file that within 30 days or they're free to levy. So we filed the equivalency the day after. Well, lo and behold, the IRS about a month later, because they're so slow and everything, they levied him. So we had to call them up and tell them, look, this was sent in, here's our proof, and they lifted the levy. But they're making mistakes all the time. So it's not just on the amount of liability. It's not just on the penalties and interest. It's widespread. I have never seen the IRS as bad as it is now, and that's for two reasons. They don't have enough people. Nobody wants to finance them because they don't want them coming after them. But when they do, they don't have the people there to take care of the problem. So now everything is taking forever. And the other thing is they're not trained properly in the automated collection system. And like I said earlier, you call them up, they'll tell you something. You don't know if it's wrong or not, but we know, and you get a lot of bad advice from people in the automated collection system because they just don't get the support or the training that they need in order to do a great job for the IRS. So I've just never seen the IRS as bad as it is now, but that's the new reality. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Hey, Lance, I'm sure you hear this all the time. I can't tell you how many emails we get regarding your show that start off with, a friend of mine told me, my uncle told me, a relative told me, and it's like, you got to stop listening to them.
It's absolutely.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah, and it's not just those people. I got to tell you, I have nothing against accountants. They're great with the numbers. We rely on them for complex tax issues because I'm not a tax attorney. I'm a tax resolution attorney. So all the questions about your tax return, I can't answer all those questions because I'm not trained in that. But I'm going to tell you this. Accountants are great with preparing the returns, but they just dabble with the IRS. And so, we don't. This is all we do. And so we have seen, all my attorneys, we've seen accountants give atrocious advice to their clients. And I want everybody to listen about this because here's the biggest one. You go to an accountant, you got 10 years unfiled tax returns. It's a crime not to file your tax returns, but the accountants will have you file all 10 years. Big mistake, particularly if you're self-employed. In order to be compliant, the IRS is only going to require that you file the last 6 years' tax returns.
Wow, that's a big difference.
So prior to 2020, let's say 2018, if the IRS hasn't filed and you don't file, your liability is zero. And at this late date, because they don't have the resources, the IRS is not going to file a return for you. But those accountants who tell their self-employed people to file the return, and those people generally don't make estimated tax payments, they're putting tens of thousands of dollars of tax liabilities on the books for their clients that don't have to be there. So, accountants have their place, but it's not generally with dealing with the IRS because most of them just dabble in it, and you don't want somebody that just dabbles in it, like your friend, like your uncle, like your spouse. You've got to get professional assistance.
Lance, not only that, but since I do so much due diligence, I see a lot of law firms who do, let's say, personal injury, criminal law, real estate law, and they hang up a shingle saying they do tax relief. Your firm, that's all you do is tax relief. And I've learned over the
Absolutely.
years, when a firm concentrates in one area, they're always going to do a better job for you.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, years ago, I was a small town lawyer, and you're kind of forced into trying to do everything in
Yes,
terms of being a generalist because you can't make a living otherwise, because you
right.
can't do this. But I found this niche late at night about 20 years ago. And, I gradually did. And one day I pulled off the band aid and I said, this is all we're going to do. We're going to take our hits coming up, even if it means we don't make a whole lot of money for a few months. We're going into this full blown. We owe this to people. This is a niche. Most people don't want to deal with the IRS. And, Steve, I've told you this before. I started out as a public defender. I've always been on the side of the little guy against the government. And that's what I want to do. I level the playing field for people. You're going up against the big bad wolf, and I'm there to help people solve their problems with the IRS.
Lance, one of the things I've learned from your show is if a person tries to handle this themselves and go up against the IRS, a lot of times they're going to give them information that your firm never would have given the IRS. But people don't know. And when they hire your firm, they no longer ever have to talk to the IRS.
Well, in fact, we make it a condition of our continued representation that they not talk to the IRS. And the problem is people like to talk. So they're going to volunteer information. And I do an audio. It comes on when people are on hold on the telephone with us. Never volunteer information to the IRS. Just answer whatever information or question they're asking. Do not volunteer information to them. You don't need to do that. And this is why you don't want to represent yourself, because what happens is, and I know this, Steve, because people think they can do this on their own. They call the IRS, they set up a payment plan, then they call me. And the first words out of their mouth are, I can't afford the monthly payment. And I go, then why did you do this?
Right.
And they go, this is what they told me I had to pay. That is not true. They take advantage of lay people. They do it all the time. It's all based on your ability to pay it back. And so 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for the taxpayer. It's a lot of work for us. Everybody thinks this is easy. It's not. We wouldn't spend $50 to $100 a year keeping up with everything if it was that easy. You've got, and it's going to cost you money. But there's practitioners out there that are not as expensive, but guess what? They don't do the work. And so a lot of these taxpayers send all this money to these big firms and nothing ever gets done. They keep asking for more money. They never know what they're going to pay. You know up front what it's going to cost you with our firm, unless you need additional services that you haven't contracted for during the initial consult.
Lance, talk about doing it yourself. If you're, say a small or medium business owner, and you try to contact the IRS, you could be on hold for 2 or 3 hours. That's going to take you away from your business.
Absolutely. And people come to me simply because they spend all this time trying to contact the IRS. They'll wait 2 or 3 hours and then they get disconnected. And after they do this for 8 or 10 hours, they think, oh, I can't do this. And we have special software, generally, not all the time, but for the most part, we can get through in 3 minutes. It costs us a pretty penny, but it's well worth it. Because in the old days, Steve, we were just like a taxpayer. We'd have to sit on the phone for 2 hours. Now, obviously, we did other work while we were waiting, or we'd never make any money. We'd never get any work done. But, we had the same problems until we got this software. So, yeah, if you try to do this on your own, you're going to spend all kinds of time. Then you're going to call them up. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to do the wrong thing. So, fork out some money, get an expert, get somebody who does this every single day and will get you the best deal possible. But, Steve, that's not the only thing. We ensure you're compliant moving forward. And thirdly, we also protect your income and your assets. So it's not just about getting you the best deal possible on the back taxes. It's protecting your income and your assets and making sure you don't have these problems with the IRS in the future.
I want to get this last question in from Norman, Fort Lauderdale. A friend knows about your show and knew I would be listening today. He wants me to ask you about hardship deferral. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. If you can prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay any of this back, that's the 10 to 15% of my clientele I alluded to earlier. The IRS will place you into what's called currently non-collectible status due to financial hardship. Now, obviously, people on a fixed income or they don't make a whole lot of wages, they're probably never going to be brought out. But, people, and so we delay this sometimes because once I get you a resolution, including currently non-collectible, our services are concluded. So if we have somebody in that situation, and we know they're going back to work in a few months, we're not going to get them set up in that because the IRS is going to take them out of that when they see they're making more money. When they review your tax return, they're going to take you out of that. So sometimes he's right. It's just a deferral until you get back on your feet and you make more money. But a lot of times they're never going to come after you again. You got to remember, they do not have enough people working for them, and a lot of things just fall through the cracks.
We've been running Lance's phone number on our YouTube, but there's so many of you listening on radio, iHeart, now TikTok that don't see the number. It's 888-367-6512. It's 888-367-6512. Lance, do you have a website?
I do. It's called lancedrurylaw.com. And if they want the local numbers for St. Genevieve, St. Louis, Nashville, San Antonio, and Houston, Texas, it'll be on the website. And to the gentleman in Fort Lauderdale, we're coming to Miami one of these days.
Hey, we're going to hold you to that one. Lance, we're going to have Lance is going to be back with us Monday at 9:25 Eastern time. Make sure it's Eastern time because we have people from all over the country watching and listening. So this Monday, first, if you have a friend or a family member who's having problems with the IRS, they don't want to miss Monday's show. Again, it's at 9:25 Eastern time. Please tune in. Lance, bro, I love you.
Steve, I got to tell you, I got 6 of my attorneys coming in Monday, and they're all going to be in this office.
Yes.
I've already told them, you can't work in the conference room till 9 o'clock because I got to be with Steve.
Oh, my God. That's going to be nice. Lance, I can't thank you enough. I don't find myself thanking all my experts like I do. We are so lucky to have found you because there's a lot of bad companies out there, and we just so lucked out with you, Lance.
Well, I'm loving it, Steve. I love to be here. I love getting the questions from people. I'm glad that I'm doing this public service for people. But if you got a problem, call us. You're going to be happy about the decision you made in hiring us.
Lance, have a good weekend. Be ready for us Monday morning.
I will be, Steve. Don't worry.
Okay, buddy. That's Attorney Lance Drury. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you, Steve.
He'll be back again with us Monday at 9:25 Eastern time. We're going to go to break. We come back. we've got another great expert coming on. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.